Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Majespecter Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for the April 2024 ban list. Majespecter Unicorn Kieran is finally off the list, so I wanted to update the deck that it was meant to be in initially with the newer support that we got from the Phantom Nightmare booster set. All the new Majespecter cards definitely work very, very well with setting up our bounce back power of Kieran. So with the new added monsters, the new link monsters, you name it, I figured an update was due to the deck since this was a very important card initially for the Majespecters to begin with. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the new card off the ban list, and that is Majespecter Unicorn Kieran. During either player's turn, you can target one pendulum monster in your monster zone and one monster your opponent controls, return them to the hands. You can only use each effect of Unicorn Kieran once per turn. It cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects, so you can even target Kieran himself for the bounce power, which can easily be made use of with one of our newer spells in the deck, being Majespecter Winds, even featuring Kieran on the card as the card that was also being written upon with Majespecter Draco Ryu, finally able to play out the actual monsters with the needed cards, using Kieran as a monster to be able to summon off of Majespecter Winds, which that spell can also be searched off of cards like our Majespecter Crow Yada quite easily also. For the three ofs for our Majespecter monsters, we run 3 copies of Majespecter Raccoon Bumbuku. All the Majespecter monsters also share the protection effect of cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So with your Bumbuku, when it's normal or special summon, you can add one Majespecter monster from your deck to your hand. You can use this effect of Raccoon Bumbuku once per turn. It cannot be targeted or destroyed, as I said before, sharing that effect, but still, this card is meant to search out the next card to help with our setup of our link to Majespecter monster, and that is our Majespecter Porcupine Yamarashi. With this card during the main phase, if you control a Majespecter monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If it's normal or special summon, you can target one Majespecter spell in your graveyard and set it. You can only use each effect of Porcupine previously once per turn, and while it's in the monster zone, your opponent cannot target it with card effects and it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So very similar to the other Majespecter effects, but being able to set up the link to new with our Yamarashi just gives us more and more access to be able to use Kieran in the deck also. But the biggest play with Kieran comes down to the search of Majespecter Winds, which can easily be done with cards like our Majespecter Crow Yada. When it's normal or special summon, you can add one Majespecter spell from your deck to your hand. So being able to then just add Wind and then use the Tribute of Yada to summon Kieran from the deck gives us a bounce disruption against our opponent, especially since our Kieran can also be used on our opponent's turn. With the last of the 3 ofs for the Majespecter monsters being the 3 copies of Majespecter Toad Ogama. When it's normal or special summon, you can set one Majespecter spell trap directly from your deck, but it cannot be activated this turn. But still, another way to set up the potential wins to then just in turn use on our opponent's turn if we end up going first against them also. And then the other one-ofs for our Majespecter monsters being the 1 copy of QB and the 1 copy of Nekomata. Nekomata can search a card at the end of the turn. It's normal or special summon, just needing to have Majespecter card in its name. And QB, when it's summoned out, can search out a trap. While not as needed as, Yada, I still find it useful to be able to add one of the many different Majespecter traps from our deck to our hand for us to be able to use off of QB. For the Draco Slayer lineup that we run in the deck, 3 copies of Majesty Pegasus, the Draco Slayer. If you have a Draco Slayer or Majespecter card in the Pendulum Zone, you can add one Draco Slayer Pendulum monster with a different original name from that card from your deck to your hand. So search power, then you can destroy 1 card in your Pendulum Zone. And with this card being able to protect your Draco Slayer cards by discarding it, and also with this card, if it's special summoned by the effect of a Draco Slayer card, you can add 1 field spell from your deck to your hand, which we do run a good variety of field spells in the deck in the form of cards like Majesty's Pegasus and even our Secret Village of the Spellcasters. Our other Draco Slayer cards consist of 2 copies of Luster Pendulum and the 1 copy of Dynamite to be able to make use of the other cards in the deck, including the field spell for the Draco Slayer Dragonic Pendulum, which can also be searched off of our Majesty Maiden, to then in turn use cards like Luster Pendulum, destroying our Majespecters to search and set up more in the extra deck for us to use, while still setting up scales to use also, with the last of our main deck monsters being 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, just a hand trap of choice to use along with the running lineup of Infinite Impermanence to have a small hand trap lineup if we do end up going second against our opponent. For the spells, I run 3 copies of Majespecter Wind. When you activate this card, you can also tribute 1 Wind monster as a spellcaster to special summon 1 Majespecter monster from your hand or graveyard. if you tributed a monster at activation, you can special summon the monster from your deck instead. So this can be the way with just the summon of Yada, searching out the spell, and then being able to set on this play, being able to activate the spell to tribute Yada, and then this can just summon Kieran on the field. You can even just leave the Yada on the field, set wind, and then interrupt your opponent's play if you went first against them when they summon out a monster onto the field and getting out your Kieran, and then in turn activating the bounce back effect, adding the Kieran to your hand, and taking care of their own monster. I also run the 1 copy of Cyclone, a quick play effect, being able to tribute a windcaster, spellcaster, monster to target one monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So more specific, but still another search card, but just a 1 of is what you need of that. For our field spells, 1 copy of Secret Village, 1 copy of Dragonic Pendulum, and the 1 Majesty's Pendulum. With these cards, you have search options thanks to our Majesty Pegasus to add the needed spell. Majesty's Pegasus being able to just have more of a boost for our wind spellcasters, and you can tribute 1 to special summon 1 level 4 lower Majespecter monster from your deck, giving us search access for any of the other ones we may have mentioned, the recycle power of Yamarashi, the search power of Mbuku, you name it, you get a plus whenever you use Majesty's Pegasus. Dragonic Pendulum being more for the Draco Slayer option as well, being able to target a field spell and destroy it, and then special summon 1 Draco Slayer monster from your deck. And Secret Village can just help to shut down any of our opponent's spells as long as we have a spellcaster monster, which with this deck will have a good majority of the time. And then the rest of the spells that we run in the deck is just the 1 copy of Call by the Grave for more shutdown of any of our opponent's hand traps or graveyard monster effects they may try to use against us. For the traps for the Majespecter lineup, I run the 1 copy of Majespecter Tornado, the 1 copy of Supercell, and the 2 copies of Majespecter Tempest, with Tempest being more of a counter trap to stop a monster special summon or a monster effect by tributing a wind spellcaster to negate the summon or activation and destroy the card, Supercell to protect our Majespecter cards and activations on the field, and Tornado being more of a banish by tributing a wind spellcaster also. Like I said, more specific for the traps, the spells definitely do help with a more offensive lineup, especially now with Kieran in the deck. That's why we're only running the 1 QB compared to the 3 Yada. And then the rest of the traps in the deck just consisting of the 1 Gozen match to stop more of our attribute lockdown of our opponents, needing mostly just wind monsters for the majority of the time in the deck, and the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, because a lot of the times the non-wind monsters that we run are going to be pendulum scales anyway and not actually summoned out onto the field. Moving on now to the extra deck, I run the 1 copy of Majespecter Orthrus New. If you want to run a second copy of this card, you could take out Exceed the Pendulum for a second copy of this card. If it's link summon, you can add up to 2 face-up Majespecter Pendulums from your extra deck to your hand. Then you can add up to 2 Majespecter Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck to your face-up extra deck. Also, you can add special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for Majespecter or Draco Slayer monsters. But having the Boombuku Porcupine play is the main summon to use with this card, which I can go over that play again at the end of the video. The 1 copy of Beyond the Pendulum for more Pendulum Search, along with Exceed the Pendulum for setting up more of the bigger boost for our Pendulum cards on the field. Also, the 1 copy of Selene for the Spellcaster boost on the field as well, being able to also summon them from the graveyard so we can summon back cards like our Majesty's Pegasus. 1 Cross Sheep, along with the 1 Zephyr Metaltron, the 1 Axis Code as well, for more of a generic lineup to use with our cards, but Metaltron having a very similar play lineup for Selene in the deck, with our Xyz monsters being the 1 Majespecter Draco Ryu, the 1 copy of Trapeze Magician, the 1 Majesty Paladin I didn't have in the deck, but you can replace Trapeze Magician for the copy of that card to go with the Pendulum plays, the 1 Lightning Chidori, along with the 1 Baguska, and also the 1 Tornado Dragon, and the 1 copy of Abyss Dweller for the rest of the Xyz monsters. And then for the other Draco Slayer cards, 1 copy of Ignister Prominence, and the 1 Dinoster Power for more protection for our fusion plays and shuffle back power with our Synchro monster. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I mentioned before, we have the Boombuku summon, being able to summon out Boombuku, and then use its play to add our Porcupine to our hand. We can then summon out Porcupine, and then from there we have our Link to play. The 2 cards go to the extra deck. We summon out our New. New is activated, adding the 2 face-up cards from the Majespecter Pendulums from the extra deck to our hand, then adding 2 Pendulum monsters from your extra deck. Then with that play, you can't, or I wouldn't add Kieran because it's a level 6 monster, but you can still add cards like our Yada, and then from there, cards like Ogama, we can set the pendulum scale with our Boombuku and our Porcupine, and then being able to pendulum summon out the Yada and the Ogama. Ogama can set up cards like Tornado on the field, and then the Yada can set up the Wind, which then the following turn, we can have the Overlay play also for our Majespecter New with our 2 level 4 monsters. Then the following turn, Tribute for the play of our New, being able to use for the Tribute of our monster to then be able to summon out Kieran, which then we have a bounce effect of Kieran to be able to stop one of our opponent's plays when bouncing it back to our hand and stopping one of their own monsters on the field also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Just a quick look at the Majespecter deck again with the added power of Kieran. Definitely happy with this card to be added back into the Majespecter deck. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.